Tonight's first account comes from a night clerk who worked at a roadside motel off Highway 23. The building's been abandoned for years now, but what he saw there still keeps him up at night. This is his story.
I took the night job at the Sunset Motor Lodge in 2008. It wasn't glamorous. 15 rooms, a busted neon sign, and a soda machine that only worked if you hit it twice. But I needed money, and the owner didn't ask questions. The motel sat on the old highway, miles from the nearest town. Truckers, drifters, and couples passing through, that's who we got. By midnight, the place was dead quiet. You could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights and the distant whine of semis on the interstate. My job was simple. Check in late guests, do a patrol every hour, and make sure the room stayed empty unless they were paid for. That's where this starts, room 12. It had been closed for years. The owner said there'd been a bad accident there. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't push. But the key still hung on the wall, and the door was always locked. At least, it was supposed to be. My first week was uneventful. Until Thursday. It was 2:43 a.m. I remember because I'd just written it down in the logbook. The front desk buzzer went off. When I looked up, the camera feed for room 12 showed the door wide open. I went out there thinking it was a prank. The hallway was cold, colder than outside, like the air was being pulled out through the cracks. The door to 12 was ajar. No lights on inside. I pushed it open, and the smell hit me, something between mold and burned hair. Inside, everything was perfectly still. The bed was made, the bathroom door open. But on the nightstand was a freshly lit cigarette, still burning. There hadn't been anyone checked in that room in over a decade. Back at the desk, the phone started ringing. The display read, Room 12. I hesitated, then answered. Front desk. A woman's voice, faint and distant. He's still here. Then the line went dead. I ran the security feed again. The hallway outside room 12 was empty. But the door, now closed, had a shadow underneath. 2 feet. Motionless. When I went back to check, the door was locked. The cigarette. Gone. The next morning, I asked the owner what happened in room 12. He sighed and poured himself coffee. Couple stayed there, back in '96, he said. Truck driver and his girlfriend. Fight got bad. She shot him, then herself. Room's been sealed since. I told him someone had called from that line. He didn't even look up. That phone's not connected to anything, son. That night, I unplugged the camera feed for 12. I didn't want to see it anymore. But around 3 a.m., I heard the buzzer again. Only this time, it wasn't the front desk. It came from the intercom outside room 12. It was one of those old call buttons guests could use to contact the desk. Nobody had used it in years. I went out to check, flashlight in hand. The hallway was dark. The overhead light had gone out. When I got close, I saw the button still glowing red. And then a voice came through the old speaker, warped by static. Room service. I froze. The sound of a door opening echoed behind me. I turned, and the door to room 12 was open again. Inside, the lights flickered on. The bed was unmade, the sheets stained dark. On the bathroom mirror, written in steam, were the words, "He never left." The next few nights, I tried to ignore it. I stopped walking the halls. But things kept happening. Guests in other rooms complained of hearing arguing late at night, a man and woman's voices, muffled through the walls. One trucker left in the middle of the night, said he saw someone standing in the parking lot, staring up at room 12's window. When I checked the feed, I saw it too, a tall man, face obscured, just standing under the flickering neon sign. Every time lightning flashed, he was closer to the building. By the fourth flash, he was gone. I started keeping a camera of my own. One night, I left it recording facing room 12 from the end of the hall. At 3:17 a.m., the door opened by itself. A faint shadow crossed the doorway, and then the lens fogged over completely, like a breath had hit it. The audio picked up 3 words, whispered low. Check it out time. When I reviewed the footage the next morning, I noticed something else. In the reflection of the window behind the door, I could see my own camera standing there. And behind it, another figure. Someone holding a gun. A month later, The owner called and said we were shutting down for good. The place was losing money. The last night I worked, I walked the halls one final time. When I got to room 12, the door was open, waiting. Inside, the furniture was gone. The wallpaper stripped. But etched into the wood of the nightstand were the same words from the mirror. He never left. When I stepped out, the door slammed behind me. The key, still hanging from my hand, snapped in half. In 2019, I drove down Highway 23 again. The motel was boarded up, windows shattered. The old sign still flickered faintly in the dark. Sunset Motor Lodge. I stopped to look. Through one of the windows, I could see the faint glow of a light, room 12's window. And for just a second, I saw two figures inside. A woman sitting on the bed. A man standing in the doorway. Then the light went out. When I drove away, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, when I played it back, all I heard was a voice. Faint, almost a whisper. Front desk, checkout time.
That was the old Highway Motel. Some guests never leave, and some rooms never stay empty. This last story comes from a man who rented a small farmhouse on the edge of a forgotten town in Kentucky. He wanted peace and quiet, but something in that house had been waiting a long time. This is his true account.
When I first saw the house at Miller's Crossing, I thought it was perfect. White paint peeling, a front porch that leaned a little, and fields stretching out to the horizon. After years in the city, it felt like freedom. The owner, an old man named Carlton, said it had been empty for years. He didn't say why. "You'll have all the space you need," he told me, jangling a set of keys. "Just don't mind the sounds at night. Place settles strange." I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. That first night was quiet. Too quiet. No cars, no neighbors. Just wind through the corn and the creak of old wood. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to what sounded like footsteps above me. The house only had one floor. I told myself it was the wind, maybe the rafters shifting. But the sound was heavy, slow, measured, like someone walking barefoot, pacing right above my bed. When I turned on the light, the sound stopped. The clock read 2:17 a.m. The next morning, I noticed something odd. A door at the end of the hallway, half covered by an old bookcase. It didn't match the rest of the house. Thick wood, rusted hinges, no handle. I asked Carlton about it when he came by to drop off mail. He looked at it too long before saying, "Best keep that shut. Basement's unsafe." But that night, I heard scraping from behind it, like fingernails against wood. When I put my ear close, I swear I heard breathing. A few days later, I found an old photograph tucked under the dresser, black and white faded. It showed the front porch, maybe 50 years ago. 3 people stood there, a man, a woman, and a child. None of them smiled. What caught me was the window behind them. In it, a 4th figure stood watching, a shadow where no one should have been. That night, I set the photo on the kitchen table. When I woke the next morning, it was gone. I found it later, tucked under my pillow. By the end of the week, the noises were constant. Footsteps at night, doors shifting. Once, the radio in the kitchen turned itself on, static blaring, even though it wasn't plugged in. I tried to ignore it, until I noticed the scratches on the basement door. Long marks, gouged deep into the wood. There were 3 sets, small at the top, deeper at the bottom, like something had been clawing to get out. That night, I moved a chair in front of the door. Around 2 a.m., the chair slid aside on its own. I finally decided to open the door. Curiosity outweighed fear. The wood groaned as I pushed it open. A set of steps descended into darkness. The air that came up was cold and damp, like the inside of a tomb. My flashlight barely worked, but I went down anyway. At the bottom, I found a room made of stone, not wood, older than the house. The floor was dirt, packed solid. In the center was a single rocking chair, gently moving, and carved into the wall behind it were the words, "He won't stay buried." When I turned to go back up, the door slammed shut. The light went out. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. I could hear something behind me, dragging across the dirt floor. Then a whisper inches from my ear. "You found me." I don't remember getting out. One moment I was in the dark. The next, I was outside on the porch, gasping for air. The basement door was closed again. The key I'd left in the lock was gone. I slept in my truck that night. Every light in the house flickered on and off, over and over, until sunrise. When I went back inside the next morning, every photo frame in the house, including the one I'd found, was turned face down. I drove into town that day and asked around about the property. An old woman at the diner finally spoke up. "That was the Wexler place," she said. "Man built it after the war. Had a boy who went missing. They say he searched the fields for years. When they found the boy, he was down in the root cellar. Whole place is cursed since." Root cellar. Basement. That night, I packed what I could and left before dark. I never went back, but sometimes I dream about that house. In the dream, I'm standing at the bottom of those stairs again, flashlight shaking. The air smells like wet soil and rust. And every time, I hear that same whisper, "You found me." Last month, I saw online that the house burned down. The report said the fire started in the basement. Investigators found something strange in the ashes. An old child's rocking chair, still upright. They said it was untouched by the fire.
That was the house at Miller's Crossing. Some homes remember they're dead, and some won't rest until they're found. If you ever stayed somewhere that felt wrong the moment you walked in, send us your story at titanparanormalstories@gmail.com. Because sometimes what's buried doesn't stay buried.